Hey guys, welcome back. So for this one, we're jumping back into Night Terrors with Night Terrors Batman issue 1, where for this one we follow Bruce into his nightmare, which on one hand is something that we've seen a lot, but this time he's attempting to take a different approach, which may or may not backfire. And with that said, let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squad up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so when we come back, we initially get this monologue from Batman, with him talking about how through the years, a number of the different villains that he's faced have tried to get into his head. And amongst them, there's been different methods and different concoctions, whether it's Jonathan Crane and his fear toxin, or Poison Ivy, manipulating the pheromones from plants to either control Batman or use his inner thoughts against him. But regardless of the intention, these attacks on Bruce's mind quickly became a form of attack that he was under quite often. And with Batman talking about this, we're taken back a number of years, and we're shown one of the first processes that Bruce put himself through not too many years after returning to Gotham and becoming the Batman, that would take his training a step further and help him to isolate his fears so that these new enemies that he's facing won't be able to use them against him. So to undergo this process, he submerges himself underwater using this virtual set, and he tells Alfred to take him out in 24 hours. But while Bruce is under and virtually facing his fears with the Batman version of the Apple Vision Pro, and I mean it probably cost him $3,500 too, and I mean maybe more since he can take his underwater. But while Bruce is submerged within this experience, he relives the night that his parents were murdered a number of times over. And with seeing this, it's really no surprise that this moment, the scariest moment of his life, the moment that made him Batman, would turn out to be the focus of this virtual training. But with Bruce undergoing this process, suddenly we see him pulled out of it by Alfred, who Bruce initially yells at, saying that he had told Alfred to keep him under for 24 hours, only to then have a very concerned Alfred tell him that he was under for 24 hours. And Alfred asked him, was it worth it? Only for Bruce to then admit that he'll never be over Joe Chill killing his parents. And no matter how many times he witnesses it, nothing will ever take away the pain of that night in Crime Alley, except for the end of his mission in Gotham. But nonetheless, Bruce does believe that this exercise will come in handy someday. And just after this, we then head back to the present day with the comatose Batman, who was knocked out and forced into a nightmarish sleep state where he now must face his fears, like many others across the globe. And initially for Bruce, when he's in here, he immediately recognizes that he's wearing the suit he wore when his parents were murdered. And just like many years ago, he's right back in Crime Alley. But even though he falls for it initially, with him hearing his father call out to him and Bruce calling back, it isn't long before he realizes that no, he's not a child and that's not actually his father that he hears. And it's also here where Bruce remembers early on the fight that happened before and how he was knocked out by a spider. But even still, because of Bruce's training and the preparation that he had taken, he should be able to get back up. But something is keeping him here and forcing him to stick around for the whole nightmare. And suddenly next, young Bruce is nearly crushed by a giant version of his mother's pearls, which chase him down the alley and back into the Monarch Theater, where Insomnia tells him to take a seat and get ready for the film. Which for Bruce initially has him like, yeah, okay, like he's done this song and dance before. Cause for the villains who know his origin, they just like to bring him back to the Monarch Theater, or at least a twisted version of it. So Bruce is just like, go ahead, there's nothing you can show me that I don't already know. So Insomniac goes ahead and he shows Bruce something that he doesn't know, which is actually a live feed of what's going on out in the real world with Deadman using Bruce's body to fight off a number of people who have been taken over by Insomnia. And Deadman's doing his best to not actually hurt them since these people are no longer in control. But again, for Bruce, this is news to him because he didn't know that Deadman just went ahead and did the thing that he told him not to. But seeing this also gives Bruce the idea of touching the screen so that perhaps if he does, he'll be able to just slide through and regain his consciousness. But when Bruce gives this a try, unfortunately it doesn't work and he just gets yanked through the screen, where he then ends up at his parents' home, where Bruce first sees the graves of his parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, alongside of the grave of Alfred, amongst many others. But for Bruce, he just tells Insomnia that he's not impressed, so he can stop trying to use his parents' death or the death of anyone else as a way to shake him up. And he lets Insomnia know that he might as well show himself and get to the point. But Insomnia first lets Bruce know that he's not the one controlling these nightmares, and he tells Bruce that he's not really doing much of anything because these nightmares are coming from Bruce, and Insomnia is really just along for the ride. And as Insomnia shows himself, he appears wearing this Robin outfit with an I instead of the R, and he lets Bruce know that he's long time been a huge fan. He grew up in Gotham his whole traumatic life, and he says that it was always so cool that not only did they have their own superhero, but Gotham's hero is Batman. So Insomnia's like, I'll tell you what, I'd love to be your sidekick. All you gotta do is help me find the Nightmare Stone, which Dr. Destiny hid in the nightmare of one of you heroes. And he lets Bruce know you just do that, and all this will be over. And with Insomnia now showing himself to Bruce, he understands that this is the creature who took John D's body. So he asks him, what are you? And he goes on to say, I'm the thing that goes bump in the night, the boogeyman, your worst nightmare, but you can call me Insomnia. To where he then causes the dead to raise out of their graves and attack young Bruce, as Insomnia waits for Bruce to give him his answer. But young Bruce is just beating the mess out of everybody. Martha can get it, Jim can get it, Nightwing can get it, any one of these people here can catch the fade, because Bruce makes it clear that he's not afraid of fighting against his own fears. And if Insomnia thinks that he is, he's got something else coming. But then next, Insomnia tries to tempt Bruce with Selina coming back and saying we can try this again if Bruce says yes to Insomnia, because now Insomnia is trying to manipulate Bruce's nightmares and make the case that it's actually happiness that Bruce is afraid of. But Bruce isn't going for this either. He tells Insomnia that's not the case, he's not afraid of happiness, he's not afraid of him. And Bruce has faced so much more than what's been thrown in front of him so far. But as Bruce goes on to tell Insomnia about how mid this nightmare is, he then begins to choke and cough up a bat, which not only is one of the most gruesome things that I've seen in a comic, but the bat also has a gun in its head, or as a head. Like, it's crazy. But if that wasn't enough, the bat turns around and it starts busting. And as Bruce makes a run for it, Insomnia lets him know that long ago when Bruce created the Batman and turned himself into a creature of the night, he transformed himself into a symbol of nightmares. But now that nightmare is taking on a mind of its own. And he asks Bruce, how does it feel to have your own darkness turn against you? And as Bruce is running, eventually he gets shot. And he tells Insomnia that he should thank him because he actually felt that. And it freed him, as Bruce then transforms into a nightmare himself. And he tells Insomnia that he now knows what he must do, which is go deeper into his own nightmare, into his own mind, to regain control of his body from Deadman. And really with Bruce doing this, I can't help that it reminds me of the Nightmare Batman from the end of Arkham Knight, who at the time I thought we was gonna get to play as for a little bit. I still feel some kind of way about it. But yeah, that's what this makes me think of, and maybe that's just me. Let me know if you guys kinda caught that vibe too. But Bruce lets Insomnia know that he's gonna handle his fears and then he's coming back for him. And as Bruce goes on his way, Insomnia tells him that he's making a mistake, because this isn't like Batman's going up against the Scarecrow. Because again, each nightmare that he's traveling to, they're coming from him. They're coming from Bruce. So Insomnia is pretty much telling Batman that it's his own mind that determines how bad this gets. And because Batman has lived in darkness and survived through some of the worst scenarios that are known to man, by going deeper, Bruce is gambling with the possibility of actually losing his mind, which is an argument that I get. But if I may mention, aside from Bruce's training, it was only a few years back when we got Dark Knight's Metal, as well as the tie-in with Batman Lost, which really, in just this tie-in alone, we saw Batman face the author of his nightmares, Barbatos, who had Bruce trapped for decades, showing him galaxies of worlds built off of the unspoken terrors of Bruce's heart. And it has me thinking a couple things, like for one, Bruce should probably be a nightmare expert by now. But then also at the time, he was told that he only saw 3 out of thousands. So maybe Joshua Williamson's gonna show us some of those other ones. But from here, when Bruce steps in, deeper into his mind, deeper into the nightmare, his appearance changes and he becomes Joe Chill in Crime Alley with a gun pointed at Thomas and Martha Wayne. And with Bruce having no control, the gun goes off, leaving Bruce to now have to figure out how he's gonna get over this. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/Dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. All right, later.